Hello? Hello, hello? Can you hear me? Hello, hello. It's good to see you. I can see we also have one of our newest patients, members in the chat today. Ooh, and the other Dr. Lolly is here, the other me. My other half, some might say. But is it only two halves, or are there even more Lolly me? You never know. Just a moment. Sorry if there's a lot of noise. I'm trying to readjust my mic. It's tipping over. Okay. Anyway, let's make a transition. Bottom. Yes. Okay. Unfortunately, my mic tipped over again. Sorry. Don't know why that keeps happening today. I'll readjust it just a bit. Now it should be a bit more stable. Anyway. Tier list form. Nice. Yes. Okay. I could not get the BGM background music, it's called. Working probably. I apologize for that. If it's a deal breaker, I'll add it to the VOD, so you can go watch the VOD. But luckily, I will more than make up for it by talking a lot. Because oh boy, have I prepared some stuff. Originally, I just wanted to quickly, skim through all the stories, so I could remember them properly. But I instead ended up spending 5 hours preparing this stuff. So I really hope you like it. If I mean anything to you, please just be nice and say you enjoyed it. Thank you very much. Very much. Okay, so our first story is Into the Pit. Da-da-da-dum. It's alright, I guess. Just a moment. Actually, before we begin, I want to say something about horror and on its own, and it will make more sense once we get into the stories. Why I said it. There are lots of books. Well, it's 3 stories in one book, so it's a total of 36 stories. Okay, I would like to say. No, first of all, I would like to read a quote by Stephen King about the 3 types of terror. The 3 types of terror. The gross out, the sight of a severed head tumbling down a flight of stairs. It's when the lights go out and when something green and slimy splatters against your arm. The horror. The unnatural. Spiders the size of bears. The dead waking up and walking around. It's when the lights go out and something with claws grabs you by the arm. And the last and worst one. Terror. When you come home and notice everything you own have been taken away and replaced by an exact substitute. It's when the lights go out and you feel something behind you. You hear it. You feel its breath against your ear, but when you turn around, there's nothing there. And the reason why I chose to include this quote is because a lot of, the stories in this book rely a lot on gore and, body horror and gross images and all of that, like the first kind of terror, the gross out terror. And I think that kind of, I have nothing against gore. I quite like it actually sometimes, like in the game Corpse Party, it's called. I like it in situations like this, but in a lot of these books and stories, it also feels kind of, cheap in some sort of sense, like jump scare cheap. Like it's just, used to provoke the reader to get some sort of reaction, like some sort of closed outlet from them. And I mean, that makes sense because it's more difficult to write something that is genuinely terrifying than something that, just is kind of gross to think about. Also because horror is kind of subjective in its own sense. And that's why, something that might seem really scary to one reader can, fall totally flat on another reader. But yes, when all that is said done, a lot of my favorite stories are actually the ones that do not really revolve around horror. And I think that's because, again, a lot of the horror used in this book is the sort of gross out book, the gross out kind of horror. And when you read 36 36 stories about that, it kind of, starts losing its appeal and its effect on you halfway through, well more earlier than halfway through. Another thing I would like to say is that there are certain epilogues here. As you can see, for instance, this is epilogue 1 and so on, and here we have epilogue 2. And I will not be rating those because they're like all the part of one continued story, and that story I don't. It like one continuous story, and I don't remember like in which epilogues what parts of the stories they have. Do all 36 have the same writer? No, they're like 3 or 4 different writers, I think. So there's some variety, and that's also pretty good because otherwise it might be get a little bit too much with the same writer. I mean, if they were all written by like the same writer, I'd be really, really, really surprised by like the difference in quality there is between the stories, because some are absolutely masterpieces and others are, pretty weird. He told me everything. I'm not calling that one out, but like, yes, I am. Okay, anyway. We have the first story here, Into the Pit. I'm putting it at all right. So this story is about Oswald, who is like spending summer all alone in this kind of like, it's not a ghost town, but it's like a small town where all of the big, places to go, there used to be to go to have, run out of business, so there's not really much to do or anything else. And that results in Oswald being pretty bored during the summer, also because his best friend, whose name I do not remember, he moved away earlier this year, but like Oswald and his family cannot move away because Oswald's father needs to has a job that pays not a lot, but he has a job that he needs to be there, and he can't really get something else. Or it was his mom. Or was it his mom? No, I think it was the mom, actually. Sorry. Okay. And then one day, during like Oswald spends most of his summer day, visiting the library, and then when he get back home, he visits the library, and then he goes to like this pizza place called Jeff Pizza, not Freddy Fazbear's Pizza. We get to that later, but it's called Jeff Pizza, and it has this small ball pit that you're not allowed to use because of cleanliness, hygienic rules, and so it's not very sanitary. But because Oswald is as bored as he is, and he kind of like blames his parents for not wanting to move away, one day he decides to like hide in the ball pit, and then boom, he's time traveled back to 1985. Yeah. And then back in 1985, he kind of like visits, he uses the ball pit, hides in it to like travel back and forth between different time periods, like the present and 1985. And he does that for a couple of days because that's way more interesting than anything else he has going on in his life right now. But then like later on, one day when he travels back to 1985, he meets, yes, this is the time traveling ball pit, yeah. He meets, the killer of those children who died at Freddy Fazbear's Pizzeria, because Jeff's Pizza actually used to be a Freddy Fazbear's Pizzeria. And he sees the killer in the bunny costume in front of a bunch of dead children. And then he's like, oh no, I better get out of here. So he like runs to the ball pit and, tries to get back home. But the killer follows him back to like Oswald's originally time. And then all of a sudden his dad is also there, and he's like, wait, what's going on? Why is the bunny chasing you in this ball pit? And then the bunny man attacks his father, and he kind of fights against him, and it ends up with the father being pulled into the ball pit and then the bunny emerging back out. After that, the bunny man becomes Oswald's dad. He like pretends to be his dad. He vacuums the house like his dad normally would. And the weird thing is that to everyone else, he does not look like a bunny man. He just looks like Oswald's normal dad. But Oswald knows that something's up because, that's not my father. That's a man in a bunny costume. He can't even eat. I've never heard him talk. So he decides to go back to the ball pit, to try and find his real dad. And then there is some action fighting scene between Oswald and the spring bunny man, who also follows him back to the ball pit. And then it ends with the bunny man, accidentally hanging himself in some of the ropes from the ball pit. Like, there is this net above it. Yeah, he hangs himself in the net and then he dies. And then Oswald finds his real dad and escapes with him back to the present time. And like, his dad doesn't realize that anything was wrong. He wakes up and his head hurts, but Oswald say, oh, that was just because I wanted to scare you. So I was hiding in the ball pit and then I jumped up at you and accidentally hit you. Sorry about that. But anyway, yes, time traveling ball pit sounds like a SCP. It kind of does, yes. But yes, it has a good ending. We don't have a lot of these, so enjoy it while you can. But yeah, it's a nice, fun story. It's not like, there are ones that I like a lot more, but I don't have anything against it. It's enjoyable. The intro is a bit long. Like, it takes some time until, you get to the action and the killer and the pretending to be is that thing. But other than this, yes, that's good. Nothing against it. Goosebumps feeling. Oh boy. Just you wait. Okay, so the next story is To Be Beautiful. And I'm not a fan of it, sorry. Okay, To Be Beautiful. It's about a girl called Sarah who goes to school, and there's this beautiful clique of girls who Sarah wants to be like. Like, she wishes she could be beautiful too, but she thinks she's flat and fat. Her own words, not mine. And then, yeah, she wishes she could be like the beautiful. She has a friend, Abby, who is, on the other hand, is like, no, don't be like those beautiful people. They're evil, they're mean, they're cruel, they are shallow, they don't have any personality or any individuality. Because they always dress up wearing the same style of clothes and plan their outfits for the day. And then Sarah is like, no, you're wrong, they're beautiful, I want to be like them. And then one day on her way home from school, Sarah passes she walks by the scrapyard. And in there she finds this animatronic robot doll girl thing, who she thinks look really pretty, so she brings it home with her in order to polish it and clean it up and all that, because it's a bit dirty after having been in the junkyard. And then, yeah, I don't know, the robot turns on by itself, and it says that its name is Eleanor, and that it can grant any one wish that Sarah wants to have granted. And then Sarah is, oh, right, if you say so, I wish I could be beautiful. And then the robot is Eleanor, her name is like, okay, then go to bed and I'll sing for you and I'll give you this necklace that you have to wear. You can never take it off. And then when you wake up tomorrow, you will be beautiful. So that happens. Yeah. It's just Selena Sky. It's not really that much that. Okay, but like that continues on for a couple of days, and every night Sarah goes to bed, she wakes up, and she's more and more beautiful. In the beginning, it's just the legs growing a bit and getting a bit slimmer, and getting some more curves, and all that. It's natural things, things that can be explained by puberty, so no one really questions it. But then later on, she still wants to be even more beautiful, so she asked to have her face replaced or changed up, and get a smaller nose and a nicer face in general. And then that is all good and well, and she starts to hang out with these beautiful girls in their clique, and she even gets a boyfriend, but all goes wrong one day when she is in the canteen and someone trips her, and that causes her to trip, and her necklace falls off. And then when the necklace falls off, it reveals what Sarah really is, and that's just a mess of robotic parts. She's just pure metal parts, and she tries to run home, she turns more and more parts of it turn into metal, like cogwheels, and all that start appearing. And then when she gets home, she realizes that she finds in her garage all her actual body parts that have been, chopped up nicely and put in bags. And turns out Eleanor was actually evil and, stealing her body parts, replacing them with metal. And then the necklace, kind of put on that illusion that she was beautiful and looked pretty, even though that was not really the case. And then she sees Eleanor escape as herself. Hello, everyone. But yes, the reason I don't like this book very much is because, not this book, this story. It's because, I don't know, it gets a bit too stereotypical. It feels kind of like a cliche American high school movie, if you've seen some of these, where you have this clique of mean girls, and then there are some, not mean girls, they're nice girls. And they're just over the top, shallow, mean, the girls, and, overall pretty dislikable, all these pretty girls. And then Abby is always right, even though she's criticizing and complaining about the pretty girls all the time, but that's okay because she's the good one. She's different. She's true to herself. She's an individual. She does not need to be pretty to be a strong woman. Is this a book for kids? I think it's rated 12 years plus. And if I have learned anything for that, it is that anything can be rated 12 years plus as long as there's no porn and no swearing. Yeah, but yes. It's a bit predictable and it's too cliche, and I don't know, all the characters feel kind of one-dimensional and shallow. But yes, that's it. Let's move on. Count the Ways. Now this is our first really good book. I really, really like this one. And I even have the book with me. I'm planning to read some of my favorite passages. So yes, let's get started. I want to read the beginning of this one. Why, if it isn't Millie Fitzsimmons, just a moment, a deep booming voice said. In the darkness, it was hard to tell exactly where it was coming from, but it felt like it was all around her. Silly Millie, chilly Millie, the ice-cold goth girl who's always dreaming of death. Am I right? Who are you? Millie demanded. Where are you? Above her, a large pair of terrifying blue eyes rolled backward, looking down into the chamber. I'm right here, silly Millie. Or maybe I should say, you're right here. You're right inside my belly. In the belly of the beast, I guess you could say. So you're the bear. Millie wondered if she had fallen asleep after she climbed inside the old robot, if she was dreaming. This was all too weird. You can just think of me as a friend. Your friend till the end. We just have to decide if the end is going to be slow or quick. I don't understand. The space was starting to feel claustrophobic. She tried the door. It wouldn't budge. You'll understand very soon, Tilly Millie. You goth girls crack me up. All dressed like professional mourners, so serious all the time. Daydreaming about death like he's the lead singer of some boy band, and that when you meet him, it'll be love at first sight. Well, Merry Christmas, Millie. I'm going to make your dreams come true. It's not a question of if, but how. What was happening? She was definitely awake. Had she lost her mind, descended into madness, like a character in an Edgar Allan Poe story? I'd like to get out now, she said. Her voice sounded small and shaky. Nonsense, the voice said. You're going to stay in here, all nice and cozy, while we work out how you're going to have your dream date with death. The choice is all yours, but it will be my pleasure to present you with some options. Options of how to die? Millie felt the cold metallic taste of fear in the back of her throat. Fantasies about death were one thing, but this felt like reality. Okay, so this story is about Millie, who is like this typical goth girl, and it kind of has this very interesting form of pacing, at least I think so, where it switches back and forth between the present, like, which is Millie who is stuck inside Funtime Freddy's stomach, because she crawled in there in an attempt to hide, and like the events that led up to this, and the reason why she is in the stomach. And yes, I just find the story really interesting because of the way it switches, but I also think like its portrayal is Millie is so nice, because she is this kind of typical goth girl that and she kind of like at school she is excluded by everyone else, but she tries to make up for it and and sort of feels like she's above everyone else because she realizes that life is meaningless and pointless, while all those other idiots, they still find joy in like things, even though there's no point to it. And then at some point a new boy arrives at his school, who is like the first person to like really be nice to her and open up to her and like wants to get to know her, and he likes stuff that she likes too, some of this stuff. And then another common theme is that Millie reads a lot of Edgar Allan Poe because she thinks that it's deep, because it's about death and all that. But her grandfather, on the other hand, tells her that they're not just about death, they're about love too. And Edgar Allan Poe writes the way he do because he knows what it means to have lost someone you loved. And Millie has never tried to lose someone who she loved. And therefore she doesn't really understand just how terrible that actually is. And then Millie, as she meets this boy, she kind of gains a new view on life and, a more positive experience and of life. But that all comes crashing down one day when he sees that the guy is kissing some other girl, and then she like confronts him about it, and he answers that he didn't realize that Millie had feelings for him. And Millie is like, how could you get with someone like her? And he's like, what's wrong with her? And Millie is like, she's blunt, she's basic, she's boring. And then the crisis actually points out how critical that is of her to think, because she complains about being excluded by people, who feel like looks and stuff like that is everything, but he also just judges her for looking a certain way and thinks that she is Charlotte because she looks a certain way. But yeah. Anyway, and it has all the way the tension builds, like as it switches between Millie's point of view and her being inside the stomach, and then Funtime Freddy is talking about all the ways he could potentially kill her, like shutting down the power and freezing her to death, or heating her to death, boiling her, or he could starve her, or all that kind of stuff. And eventually, Millie's choice of that is that she wants to be beheaded. And her plan is that once Funtime Freddy swings the blade inside his body, she will fold herself together, like so, in an attempt to try and avoid him. And then it ends with her grandfather looking for her Christmas Eve and not able to find her anywhere. So we don't really know if she succeeded at escaping him or not. But yeah, I like that one. That one was nice. Let's move on. Fetch. That's not the right one. Sorry. Fetch is the one I wanted to get. I think I'm somewhere between meh and dislike. It's better than To Be Beautiful. Let's change it like that. Fetch is the story about a boy who tries to listen to plants and tries to learn to understand plants, and then the plants say, hey, you need to go to this old abandoned Freddy Fazbear pizzeria location. If you're in there, you will you need to do that. Trust us. And then inside that pizzeria location, he finds this dog named Fetch, which is like an animatronic that can apparently connect to your smartphone device or watch device or whatever. And then he successfully manages to connect the dog, but then the other kids that he's in the location with get scared and they sort of bail and run away. Then things start getting a little creepy, because even though he left the dog Fetch at the pizzeria location, he starts getting messages from the dog on his smartphone. What? Phone, at least. I don't know what it is. And then in the beginning it's just messages, but then at some point he asks his mother for chocolate, and then when her mother comes home, she finds out that there is a chocolate bar in her shopping bag for some unknown reason. She has no idea who placed it there. And then it starts going really, really wrong when he talks about this dog who lives next to him, who's really annoying and who he really dislikes because it's very aggressive and bites everyone, attacks everyone. And then soon after he has said that, the dog shows up dead in the front lawn and has been completely mauled to death. And then there's another thing, he has this inside joke with his uncle about his uncle having a magic finger of luck. Don't ask me about what that means. And he's at some point, I could use your magic finger, and then the next day he finds the finger rolled up outside his bedroom door, and he is told by his parents that his uncle has been attacked and is at the hospital and was fighting against some kind of beast. And the last big thing is his crush Kimberly. He talks about his friends, about how he would like to hang out with her and be with her, and then the dog shows up with her body at the end, and he he figures that might happen, so he tries to go and warn her parents, but they're no, we don't trust you. What you're saying makes no sense absolutely whatsoever. Stay away from a dog. daughter. And then, the next day the dog shows up with her body. Yes, robot dog spies on him and helps him in the most worst ways. That's a good way to put it. But yes, it's a bit weird. The moral of the story is don't listen to plants. Then the next one is Lonely Freddy. I really like this one as well. It's not so much about Freddy Fazbear's restaurant. I mean, a lot of the story don't really have a lot to do with Freddy Fazbear's restaurant, pizzeria. But in this one, it's about this boy named Alec and his sister, whose name I cannot remember, but I think it was Molly or something. Holly, I think. And just a moment, let me check my document. Yeah, and Alec, he kind of gets in a lot of trouble because he has always been a bad kid. His sister's name was Hazel. Never mind. And I want to read a page from that book too. Just a moment. Okay. Bad, Alec had always argued, was such a subjective word. With its very definition, it was determined by someone else's baseline. It was a word that served one person's purpose, to judge, and Alec had been judged his entire life. His first memory was a decidedly terrible one. He was in preschool and was bigger than the other kids. Recognizing this advantage at an early age, he found he could move to the front of any line with surprising ease. The other kids were glad to play the games he dictated, and he never had to look for a seat at the lunch table. It was only when his preschool teacher pulled him to the side on that first memorable day that Alec was made to understand that he was bad. "You're a bully," the teacher had said to him, a word he assumed was positive, and smiled when she offered it. Instead of patting him on the shoulder, like his mom would do when he ate his whole meal, the teacher shrank away from him in horror. In fact, it was that precise expression on his preschool teacher's face that Alec remembered most of all. More than the way the blue plastic chairs in the classroom would stick to the back of his legs in summertime. More than the way a fresh box of unused crayons smelled under his nose. More than the way the canned peach they served as snacks slid around on his tongue amid the sticky syrup and metallic aftertaste. And I don't know. Then he, sort of grows up a bit, and he's always been told that he's this bad child, that he's not a good kid. And then it doesn't get much better when he has a little sister, Hazel, who's practically the perfect golden child. She's always nice to everyone, and she's always everyone likes her, and she's kind and friendly towards everyone. And that sort of makes Alec dislike her more because she's everything that people try to make him be. And then his parents, it's obvious that Alec has some sort of psychiatric problems, like maybe ADHD or autism or something like that, I would say at least. And his parents try all kind of different psychological methods to get him to behave, but they don't really, work in any sort of way. And Alec thinks that the one thing they do not try to do is to actually talk to him and ask him about how he feels. And if they try to talk to him, then maybe he would tell them something like he's not like Hazel and he's not a good child, but that should still be okay because he is just who he is. He isn't evil on purpose, that is to say. He just has... That's me talking now, not Alec. But I really don't think he's being evil or being mean on purpose. He just doesn't understand the words mean and has trouble in social difficulties. And he doesn't understand what he's doing is wrong. And it's a really nice and sort of heartwarming story, because at some point Hazel then tries to like make an alliance with Alec. Alec does not like Hazel because he thinks that she's secretly really evil and mean too, but she's just trying to manipulate everyone and convince them that she's not. And then Hazel, really just wants to get to know Alec better and become better friends with her bigger brother. And she tries to like show him the books that her parents are talking about. And yeah. At some point, they go to Freddy Fazbear's pizzeria to celebrate Hazel's birthday. And then there is this big prize called Yar Foxy. Yar Foxy, I think it's pronounced. It's like a pirate foxy, and it's the best thing that has ever happened in these books. And then Alec learns that Hazel really, really wants to win that Yar Foxy. And then he's like, haha, got you, because you know that Foxy has always been my favorite, and now you're trying to win it so that you can have it and I cannot, and this is really proof that you're mean. But as it turns out, Hazel actually just wanted to win it for her brother's sake, so that she could give it to him. And then Alec cannot really accept that, so he sort of storms off, and then he finds this bear called a Lonely Freddy, Lonely Freddy, which is a bear that, are present at birthday parties and that talks to like the kids who don't have any friends and asks them questions and such. And Alec feels sort of hypnotized by this bear when he's talking to it. Like he feels he has to answer its questions. And then bada bing, bada boom, Alec's mind is transferred into the Lonely Freddy bear's body. And then the Lonely Freddy doll sort of becomes the new Alec. And then he goes up, fake Alec goes up to his sister and is all like, hey Hazel, I'm sorry about what I did. I want to be a better brother now. And Hazel is really, really happy. And then Alec lies there on the floor as a Freddy toy and sees his sister being happy. And this time he's just sad that he is not the one who could make her happy like that. And yeah, the ending, it gets a bit weird when it turns into the, body swapping sort of stuff. I feel like it might have been better maybe if there wasn't this sort of, twist at the end. Well, not really a twist, but there wasn't this thing at the end, and bam, you're now a Freddy Fazbear doll. But instead it had just been Alec and Hazel trying to become better friends and, a psychological story about their relationship and such. But I don't know, I've also read some pretty nice stories about that are like continuations of this one, where Hazel goes out and tries to find out what happened to the real Alec and to save him. So yes, I don't know. You got replaced. Yes, that happens a lot. And that's a common theme. The next one, Badam, out of stock. It's alright. I liked it. It drags on for a bit too long. I think that's a common issue a lot of people had with that story. Just a moment, let me see. Out of stock. So this is a song, no, not a song, a story about Plush Trap, who is like this little spring trap, but a plush, so it's like small and it's a green bunny. And then the normal Plush Trap has, sort of spiky teeth. But then this, the kid, the main character in this story, I forgot his name, I think it's Oscar. Oscar, he goes out to like try and get one of these plush trap chasers, they're called, because they're the new thing and they're really popular and all that. But they're sold out everywhere. And then there's only one place where it is still available. And then he goes there, and there's only one left, but like the store does not want to sell it. because they think it's unsettling. Oscar doesn't really know why. He doesn't really pay that much attention. But like, because he's angry that he cannot get the plush, he ends up, laying all the money he had for it on the table, and then he and his friends take the plush and they run away with it and take it back home. And then once they get home, they get a better look on the plush, and they realize that its eyes look almost like human eyes, and its teeth like human teeth, instead of how they're supposed to look normally. And then, because this plush trap, unlike normal plush trap chasers, this plush trap chaser has human teeth, and that means it's really good at jumping everything. Like, it jumps through furniture to try and get Oscar and his friends when they're high on top of furniture. It jumps through doors, and it even jumps through the metal door of a garage. And then it like chases Oscar and his friends, and they're like, "Oh no, what should we do?" And then Oscar is like, "I have an idea." And then he runs down to where he knows there are some train tracks, and then he's like, "Oh boy, I hope a train show up soon." And then bam, the train show up. And then he's like, "That's lucky." And then he waits on the train tracks for a bit for the plush to follow him. And then the plush does follow him, and then he quickly runs away when the train comes, and the plush gets smashed by the train. Yeah, that's it. 10 out of 10. Just a moment. I want to see if I can show you something. That's some extreme protection. No, but like the plushie, it was already like weird when it was in the store, and that's why the people did not want to sell it to him, because they thought it looked weird and were like, maybe we should call the police. Now, if my paste button would work. Anyway, there is this absolutely beautiful picture of the plush trap chaser that I'm trying to get to show you. But it doesn't want to be shown. Why is that? No, not safety image. Okay, I can't show it, unfortunately. I don't know why it doesn't want to. I'm trying to copy paste it, but it's not working, unfortunately. But it looks beautiful. Just trust me. I will upload a picture to Twitter once I'm done with this. Okay, so next story is about 1:35 a.m. I mean, I don't really like this story. It's not that it's bad. Can you capture part of the screen? I don't know. I don't really want to mess too much with OBS, because it already took like a lot of effort to set the stream. Oh, why is it like that? Yeah, that's how it's supposed to look. Okay, but the next story, 1:35 a.m. I don't know, I found it pretty boring. It's about this girl who has like She needs a new alarm clock, and then she goes to a garage sale, and they are throwing out this doll, and the doll also works as an alarm clock, and it looks like the child that the protagonist always thought that she was gonna have. And then she's like, that must be fate, I'm gonna buy it. And then she buys the doll, and then she sets it for 1:35 p.m. And then she goes and takes a nap. But then she wakes up, and it's past 1:35 p.m. and the doll did not wake her up. So she gets mad at it and hurries off to work, and then throws it in like a bin outside her house. And then the next, when she goes to sleep at night, she wakes up with a feeling of terror at 1:35 a.m. So she realizes, that must be the alarm for the alarm going off. I must have accidentally set it to 1:35 a.m. instead of p.m. Stupid me. Anyway, I'll try to see if I can find the doll again tomorrow. And then she does not find the doll tomorrow because like the garbage bins has been emptied. But she keeps always waking up every night at 1:35 a.m. And then she tries to like work a night shift where she is, because if I'm already awake, then I cannot wake up feeling with that awful feeling of terror. But then once the clock strikes 1:35 a.m., she still gets some overwhelming sense of terror, and she feels like she's seeing the doll, and she tries to go and get it. But then the boss is like, what are you doing? There's nothing there. And then that continues on for many, many nights, and she can't not take it anymore. So she kind of goes crazy and decides that the only logical thing to do now is to hide and crawl inside a vent, and then keep on crawling until she's stuck. And then once she's stuck, she's happy because she believes now the doll cannot get her anymore. I'm not really sure how that works. But like, yeah. And the story ends there, so we don't know if it actually works or not, or if she's going to see the doll again next night when it's 1:35 again. Yeah, it's not really my favorite. It's just not that scary to me, and like, it's more or less the same thing over and over. And like, yeah, not a lot really happens. So sorry, that's not my favorite. Then we have this story, Room for One More. It's meh, I guess. So it's a plushie. It's not a plushie, it's a doll. It's like a porcelain doll. But yes, otherwise you got it completely. Then we have Room for One More. This is a story about a man, Stanley, who hates doctors. He absolutely hates doctors. And then he works at this really, really shady location where he is told that he's the security guard, and he's told that he needs to like keep a watch on the cameras at night and to not let anything come out. And the place that he's working at is actually the sister location from Five Nights at Freddy's 5 sister location. So that's kind of cool. But other than that, yeah. Next up, every night he starts finding this small. He likes fall asleep at his desk while he's on the job, and then he wakes up in the middle of his shift, and then he sees this small doll thingy that says, "Take me home with you," and he's like, that's funny. And then he goes back to sleep again. And then he wakes up when his shift is over and the doll is gone. And then when he's about to go home, he feels really painful in one of his leg. And when he wakes up the next morning, it's even worse. Like the pain is so bad. But he's not going to a doctor, though, because he hates doctors. Doctors are evil. He believed they killed his father because his father had cancer, and then he went to the hospital, and then he died anyway. So that must mean that hospitals don't work, and I should never go to one. So like he continues working at the place and taking a lot of headache pills, but not really doing anything else. And then the next night he sees the doll again. And then it's like, take me with you. And then he's like, that's funny. And then he falls asleep again on the shift and the same thing happens. And then he goes home, and when he wakes up the next morning, he has extreme pain in his arm. And like he can barely move it or anything, or barely stand on that one leg. And even swallowing stuff, like when he's eating and such, he feels really, really bad. And he cannot drink anything, like when he tries to drink orange juice, it burns through his throat. But like, it's not that bad. So he decides he can still go do his job because he needs that money. And I don't know, that continues on for the next couple of days until the last day where Stanley is barely even able to like get to work, and all his body hurts. He cannot stand up. He has to like drag himself alongside the floor, and everything hurts. He has this incredible pain in his stomach and in his throat, and he does not understand why. And then he sees like the small doll again. And then he realized that all the other dolls, that it's not the same doll he's seen every night. The doll it's been different dolls, and that they've been crawling into him. And now this doll is trying to crawl into him too, and like use him as a way to get out of the location, the facility where he's like working. But he's too weak to do anything about it. And then he dies. It's pretty much implied. So yeah, I don't know. I didn't really like this one too much because I found the main character pretty annoying, because he's always like, oh no, I'll not do it. He's so frustrating. That's the right word. And then when you do, like, it's just annoying. Like at some point you're just like, okay man, you brought this on yourself. You kind of deserved it. Should have gone to a doctor. And then the whole time he's, you cannot see the stream very well, sorry, I don't know what that is. Sorry. But he's like, yes, doctor's bad. Should have gone to a doctor. That's the moral of the story. Sounds like my fetish. It's not a fetish, it's horror. Those are two different things. Okay, so the next one is The New Kid. I found that one alright. I liked it. It wasn't like, oh my god, this is so really, really good, but like I liked it. I enjoyed it. It's about those. Just a moment, let me find my notes again. It's about two boys who are like kind of, the outcast at school. One of the boys' name is Devon, and the other boy's name is Mick. And they're both like outcasts who have trouble socializing with other people, and understanding social boundaries and such. For instance, Devon has a crush on this girl, and in order to try and impress her, he writes a story where her little brother gets eaten by a horrible monster, because he knows that the girl finds her little brother annoying. And then she is like obviously very weirded out by that, and is like, oh my god, dude, that's sick. But he understands it as it's a compliment. She thinks it's sick, like it's cool or something. And yeah, they don't really get along well with other people in class. But that all changes one day when there is this new kid who shows up to class, Kelsey. And unlike he's like good looking, he's friendly towards everyone, and he gets along with other people. But unlike everyone else, he's actually nice towards Mick and Devon. And when those two kids talk about, their secret hangout place they're trying to build because the last one broke down, he's like, oh, I can help you with that. Let's go hang out one day and do it together. And then the day comes around, and then Kelsey is about to go away with like Mick and Devon to this store in order to buy materials for their hangout place. But then the other kids from school come up to him and is, hey, we want to join too. We also want to do this. And then he's like, okay, sure. And then he arranges with the driver that at first Kelsey and the other kids will be picked up and then be driven to the store, and then the driver will come back for Mick and Devin and pick them up and drive them over there. But once Kelsey has left, Devin doesn't really like the plan anymore, and he feels betrayed, and he does not like. He feels betrayed, to put it, and then he and Mick walks off. And then Devon sort of comes up with this plan to get revenge, because he has found this old Freddy Fazbear location. And he suggests that to Mick and Kelsey that place could be the perfect hangout spot. So they go check out the place together, and then there is this suit, a springlock suit. And then Devon knows, because he has been to the place before, that once you're in the suit and it's locked up, you cannot get out of it yourself. You have to stay in the suit until someone helps you get out. And then he wants to trick Kelsey into the suit so that he stays in there and cannot get out, and then in order to get some revenge. And it works out. Sort of Kelsey puts out in the suit, and then it kind of goes like Devon plans until Kelsey decides to do a backflip in the suit, because he wants to see if he can succeed at that. And then once he tries to do that, the springs in the spring suit go insane, and they kind of kick in, and they start what do I say? In FNAF, in Five Nights at Freddy's, there are these springlock suit, which are some sort of hybrid animatronic. So they have a suit mode and an animatronic mode, but they're also extremely unstable. So if you trigger the animatronic while you're in suit mode, you'll have lots of metal cut into your arms, and you will suffer a slow and painful death. It's explained more in FNAF 3. But yes, because Kelsey decides to do the backflip, he sort of triggers this mode, and then he gets all these blades cut into him and screams, and that was obviously not what Devon wanted. He did not think that could happen, and then he's like, oh my god, what do we do? And Mick is panicking even more. He's like, oh my god, what do we do? And Devon is like, okay, we just need to get out of here and leave, and then not tell anyone. And then Mick is like, hey, we cannot just do that. And then Ben is like, we have to. If anyone finds out, we'll kill him. We'll go to jail. You don't want to go to jail, do you? And then they sort of do that. But during the next week, Mick gets even more and more nervous all the time. He cannot eat, he cannot sleep, he cannot drink, I think. And then Devon promised him, all right, I'll go and go back to the suit and take a look at Kelsey and see if he's alive or not. So at least they can get some closure in regards to that. And then he comes back, and then he tries to open the Freddy head's mouth in order to see if he can see, Kelsey in there. But when he does that, his arm gets stuck in the mouth and he cannot get it out. And then he tries to get free, get away from the suit, but he ends up getting even more stuck, and more of his arm gets stuck inside it. And then he realizes near the end that he's stuck inside the suit, and that no one will ever know, and that there's no cell phone connection down there, so he will probably starve to death. And meanwhile, the book sort of has this weird ending where it cuts to a new scenario where Kelsey is at a new school, and then he finds like the two outcasts is at the new school, and goes up to them and introduces to them like, "Hey, I'm Kelsey. Who are you?" So that's also a really weird ending. It's probably the book with the weirdest ending. So yes, that's that one. Next up is dun 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 dun. Step Closer. It's alright. I quite like it. Let me just get some water here real quick. Just a moment. My dog came in. But yes, starving is a pretty horrible way to go, so that's pretty tragic. Okay, but Step Closer. That is a book about two kids, two brothers, who dislike each other. They don't get along very well, and the older brother is always trying to like scare the younger brother. That's a common theme again in these books. You'll find that there are a lot of siblings or family relationships where the siblings don't like each other. So in this one, we have the protagonist Pete, who wants to scare his younger brother because he knows his younger brother is afraid of animatronics. So he, while they're at the Freddy Fazbear restaurant, he goes like into this place where Foxy is, and then he convinces his brother to follow after him and also go into the same place. And then he gets his brother up on Foxy's stage, but he cannot see Foxy. He doesn't know that Foxy's there because the curtain is pulled. And then Pete goes to press a button that like sort of make Foxy start his animation and his songing and show up. And then he does that, and his brother gets really, really scared and like runs out of the room immediately. And then Pete, meanwhile, is sort of hypnotized because the fox is singing some weird pirate song, because it's a pirate fox, about how in order to become a true pirate, you have to first lose your eye and an eye and a leg. And then during the next couple of days, Pete starts to have those some really weird freak accident, like a kid in school doing science class almost losing, dropping his knife on top of his eyes, and then another kid who's like another accident where he like almost gets his leg hurt. And then in the meanwhile, before all this, like their mother had a great idea for a family bonding activity. Let's become organ donors and sign up for that. And Pete is like, no way, that's weird. I don't want to give my body parts to anyone else. And his mother signs him up anyway, because let's just do that. This is how we're gonna be good people. But yes, Pete has all these sort of freak accidents, and they kind of go wrong all the time. And then there is a lot of accidents where he's close to losing his eye and his leg. And his younger brother is sure that it's because he has been cursed by like the pirate fox. And then Pete is like, no, that's not it. You're just stupid. But then as time goes on, he kind of realizes, okay, maybe my brother is right. And then he's like, okay, I'm going to do something about this curse. I'm going to confront the fox. And then he makes an agreement with his brother that they will both meet up they'll skip school, and then they'll meet up at Freddy Fazbear's to like go against the fox. And his brother's like, yes, I'm on. And then the brother shows up to like outside where Foxy is, and then he's waiting for Pete. and like Pete is not there, and he's not getting any messages from Pete, so he's wondering if it was some cruel prank that Pete pulled in order to like get him to skip school or something. But then he gets a call from his dad all of a sudden, and hears that something bad has happened to Pete. He has been hit by a truck. And then, yeah, that's really sad, and we get to mourn and all that. And then the perspective sort of shifts, and we are now seeing it all from Pete's point of view. And he talks about how... No, he doesn't talk about it. It's Pete's point of view, and he's like laying on this hospital bed, and the doctors are like, oh, it's too bad he's dead. And he's like conscious and like, no, I'm alive, I'm not dead. But he cannot open his eyes or say anything or do anything, so the doctors think he's dead. And then they're like, oh, well, at least he's an organ donor, so that's good. He's gonna save some lives. And then the doctor is like, yeah, I heard there's this other boy who needs a new eye and a new leg. So yeah, that's kind of the curse coming true. The kid is gonna be a pirate, all right. But yes, that's pretty much it. That's how it ends. And then it talks about how they like start cutting inside of him while he's still, conscious, but like at least he cannot feel any pain. I think it says, because that would be pretty terrible. Okay, so the next one is Dance With Me. I would say somewhere between meh and alright. I don't know. It's good. It's a good story with a good ending. It's about this kid, Casey, who's like a thief. She doesn't have a home. She lives on the street, and she steals in order to like eat and to survive. And then one day she steals this bag from a girl who has just come out of this attraction Circus Baby's Pizza World. And inside the bag there are some like holographic glasses that do that, so that when you wear them, you are able to see the character of Ballora, who is like a character in Five Nights at Freddy's 5, and see her spinning around. And then Casey tries to put them on, and she can indeed see Ballora, and it looks like, well, it sort of looks like Ballora is in the real world. And then she have some thief buddies who's with her, and they try to put the glasses on as well, but they cannot see Ballora when they do it. And Casey's like, oh, that's weird. And she starts getting more and more creeped out by Ballora, and she sort of feels like Ballora is trying to like expecting something from her, or haunting her because she stole from that little girl. And then but Ballora doesn't really do anything. She just like sort of spins around whenever Casey wears the glasses. And then every time she wears the glasses, she gets a little bit closer than the last time. So she spins to assert dominance, Ballora. And then Casey is like, okay, I'm gonna stop this thieving business. I'm gonna try and get a real job. But then on the job, she starts stealing she starts stealing from the tips that are not hers in order to get a bit more, because she doesn't really like her other colleague, and the other colleague is, I know how much people usually tip me, and you have been stealing from and then the boss is like, hey, please stop that, Casey, you cannot do that. And then Casey is like, okay, this is not working out, I need a new start, I'm gonna head to a new city and then try again to get a new job, new start, new me. And this time she succeeds at getting a job. However, in order to like attend work, she needs a nice dress to put on. So she steals a dress from a clothes store, and then she gets caught. But then she tells a sub story, and there's some nice lady who's like, oh well, I'll pay for the dress, don't you worry, you go get that job. And then she gets the job, and she starts getting more money and such, getting back on her feet. And then during the end of the story, she finds the mother and the little girl that she stole the glasses from originally, and she gives the glasses back to the girl and apologizes, and they forgive her. And then the girl puts on the glasses and starts dancing around. confusing and interesting. Yes, it's kind of interesting and confusing. Also because, Bellora's just spinning, but she's like getting closer and closer and closer every time she puts on the glasses. But yes, it's a nice, happy ending. Unless you decide to see Bellora as a parallel to Glitchtrap. Because Glitchtrap in the Five Nights at Freddy's VR game also have this, mechanic where he's, whenever you enter a certain mode, dark mode, you can get to see him, and like at the beginning he's very far away, and then he's also dancing in a weird sort of way, and then as the game progresses he gets closer and closer, and it gets really uncanny, and in the end he like goes completely up to you and merges with you and then takes over your mind and your body. And Glitchtrap, that is like a virus version of Springtrap, aka the purple guy, the murderer, William Afton, the man behind the slaughter, So if we do decide to see Bellora as some sort of parallel to Glitchtrap, then Casey returned the pair of glasses back to the little girl, just as the Glitchtrap, or Glitch Bellora, as I like to call her, was about to take over her. And then the reason why the little girl is dancing around and spinning around near the end is because Bellora is taking over her. But hey, Casey avoided that, so good for her. But they're not all written by the same guy. I think they're like 4 different writers, but like Scott comes with input and stuff to the stories, and like I think he has like the final says and something and the main idea. I don't really know how much it is. A nice feel good story. Yes. That's the position, couldn't I? Yes. And then we have Coming Home, which is absolute perfection. It is the most beautiful piece of written media that has ever existed, and I love it. It's amazing. I cried a lot. It's very, very sad. It's about this dead girl, Susie, who was murdered. She was one of the victims of the missing children incident. But she does not know that she was murdered. She doesn't realize that she's dead. And then, you see her hanging around at home like she's a ghost. And her parents are like, her mother does not want to talk with her. His sister does not want to talk with her. And Susie doesn't really understand why. In reality, it's because they cannot see her because she's a ghost. But she doesn't understand that. She just understands that something is wrong, that something bad happened, but she doesn't know what it was. And then Susie is this like a really amazing, creative child who's like has a very imaginative view of the world, like. And it's written from her point of view, so like the writing is also filled with all kind of personifications, and like the moon becomes a person, and the sun becomes a person, and all that. And there is this big tree in the garden, which Susie has called for Oliver. And then during each winter, she would like have a scarf that was knitted specifically for Oliver because he would get cold whenever he lost his leaves. And yeah, it's just a really, really beautiful and really sad story and about a girl being dead. And her family and how her family is dealing with the loss, how her sister Samantha is trying to like handle it. And yes, I want to read a couple of excerpts from it because it's really good. Okay. Before Susie got through 3 waves, Samantha suddenly stood up and kicked Susie's dolls off the blocks. Then she kicked the blocks too. all the dolls and blocks tumbled over the fluffy rock and clattered onto the dark wood floor beyond. Susie winched. Now she'd have to set up a hospital with the blocks and heal her dolls. Samantha glared at Susie before running out of the room. Susie thought about yelling after her, but fighting with Samantha never accomplished anything. She learned it was better to be quiet and let things blow over. Even so, Susie's mom appeared in the doorway. Tall and skinny with dark brown hair, Susie's mom used to look like she could be a model. Susie remembered when her mom's hair was really shiny and bouncy, when her mom's big eyes were always made up with long fake lashes, and her white mouth was always painted with sassy red lipstick. Now her mom wore no makeup, and she looked tired. Dressed in faded jeans and a wrinkled blue t-shirt, Susie's mom gazed at the toys on the rug. Susie got up and walked over to her. "Mom?" Her mom kept staring at the toys. "Are you okay?" Tears filled her mom's eyes, and Susie felt like someone was squeezing her heart. "I feel like something is wrong," she told her mom. "Something bad has happened, but I don't know what it is." Susie really wanted her mom to tell her everything was okay, but her mom just covered her mouth with her hand and let the tears spill from her eyes. Susie knew her mom wouldn't answer now. She never liked talking when she cried. And weren't the tears an answer anyway? And then, yeah, I don't know. It's just really sad, and it's not even horror. It's just sad, but it's kind of like what I like about the Five Nights at Freddy's universe. We have these small children and their parents, and just how tragic it all is. That hits me deep in the feelings. You have a great reading voice. Thank you. Okay, I'll have to hurry a bit up with the next one, but that's gonna be easy because there are a lot of not so good ones. So we have Bunny Call, which I don't really like that one. It has nothing to do whatsoever with Five Nights at Freddy's, but it feels the most out of all these stories like playing a Five Nights at Freddy's games. Because it's about this guy, Robert, who's like going on a vacation with his family, and he doesn't really want to do that. He would rather just go fishing somewhere else. Like, he's kind of tired of his wife and his kids and, never having any peace of mind. And then in order to like sort of get back on them, he decides to sign up for something called the Bunny Call, which means that a man dressed up as a bunny or a bunny animatronic, it's not really clear, will show up. Its name is Ralpho, and it will show up every day and like wake up the people in the cabin before 6 a.m., like at 5 a.m., and so it starts making its rounds. And then he's like, okay, I can use that to sort of get back at my family, and they kind of deserve that, teach them a lesson, just a prank. Haha. But then as time goes on, he starts like begins to regret signing up for that. And he's like, okay, maybe that was rather cool of me. Like, I know my daughter, for instance, she will be scared. She will be so scared. She will not be happy. And then he like tries to sign out of it, but the cabin is closed. You cannot enter unless you have any. Like, you cannot call them unless you have an emergency, and he figures it's not really an emergency. I probably shouldn't do that. But then night rolls around, and he cannot sleep. And then during the night, he realizes that, this was a really, really bad idea, and he goes outside to like get some fresh air. And then he waits for Ralpho to come around so that he can like talk to him and be like, hey man, I regret signing up for this. You can just cancel our house. We don't need that service anyway. So he does that, and then he says that to Ralpho when he comes around, and Ralpho nods and continue onwards. And then, everything is good, and he goes back to bed. But he cannot really sleep for some reason. And then he realizes later on that someone is trying to get in, and that it's the rabbit. And then he goes over to the door and like has to force hold it shut, and then next up is the windows. He has to close the windows, and he kind of like starts bashing on Ralph's hand with a tennis catcher, only to realize that Ralph is actually bleeding. And he's like, "Wait, are you okay?" And something just definitely seems off to Bob, because okay, who would go this far? Who would go this far to like make sure they do their bunny crawls? And then Ralph tries to get inside the cabin in all sorts of ways, and Bob has to like run around from place to place in order to try to stop Ralph from getting in. And then just when he thinks that everywhere is safe, he remembers, oh no, I forgot the attic window. And at the attic, his 2 sons are sleeping up there. And then he goes up and he sort of sees Ralph's head peeking in. And then they make eye contact for a moment, but then Ralph stops. He realizes and starts retreating instead. And then Bob looks at his watch and realizes that it's 6 a.m. And that then his family starts waking up as well. And yeah, it's kind of funny. It's nice references to like Five Nights at Freddy's with the whole 6 a.m. saves you, rolling around saves you from the animatronic. And yeah, it's very like tense and action-packed in some sort of ways. So I really like that one. Then we have In the Flesh, but I wanted to wait a bit with that, because what we also have is The Man in Room 1280, which is another really good story I like. And it's about this man who is like basically a burned up corpse. And by all means and accounts, he should be dead, but he's not. He's somehow still alive. Like, in the beginning, at the hospital, he said he was on life support, but then they had to like pull out the life support because they couldn't afford having him. They couldn't afford that, and there was no family or anywhere who like recognized him or claimed him or anything. But even like when they turn off life support, he still does not die. And the nurses who work at the hospital are convinced that it's because there's something evil living inside him that's keeping him alive. And then there is this priest, Father Arthur is his name, who like comes around to try and help the man, because he believes that there's something good in everyone and that everyone deserves help and to be heard. And he doesn't believe that the man is evil just because he may look like he's a living corpse. And then he tries to like figure out what the man wants, and he managed to get the man to write a message in his hand, which is a location where he wants to go. It's Freddy Fazbear Disconnection Sense or something. I cannot remember what it's called. It doesn't matter. But then the nurses are like, okay, we cannot have him go there, because if he does that, something bad will happen. Something really bad will happen. So like they try to kill the man. Like one person tries to overdose him on medicine purposefully, and put all kinds of stuff inside him. But he somehow survives all that. And another nurse tries to like choke him with a pillow and to suffocate him, make sure he cannot breathe anymore. But when she does that, the pillow is thrown up into the air and like torn apart, and feathers come flying everywhere. And the nurse gets scared, and all the while, and yeah, doing all this, there's also some little boy who's kind of like a ghost. He's there, but not really, and the nurses have seen him every now and then. So when he runs around, he's always there whenever some of the weird stuff happen, like when the pillow gets torn to shreds. And then finally the priest manages to get permission to bring this corpse guy man to the location that he wants to. And when he gets there, he just sort of explodes. Like his body, it explodes, everything is torn apart, and then everything that is at that location sort of like gets infested with his evil spirit, and that's why all the stuff in the Fazbear Frights novels are haunted, like right as all these evil things. So yeah, one of the reasons I really like this one. Oh, lore about him. Yes, kind of. There's not really much, Are you Scandinavian? No, I'm German. Okay, so one of the reasons I really like this one is because, I don't know, I just find it really interesting the way it progresses, like, and this whole thing about a man who cannot die, who cannot possibly die, and also the kid in this story is a parallel to Cassidy from the Five Nights at Freddy's games, who's like seen as this vengeful kid who refuses to let William Afton, the murderer, die, and instead she like forces him to stay alive so that she can torture him inside his own mind. Where William has to face against all these animatronics that he has built in his life. And the kid that's running around the hospital, he's wearing an alligator mask. I don't know if I said that already, but like, yes. And yeah, he's sort of like the book's version of Cassidy, because the books take place in like a separate reality. It's not like canon in regards to the books. But yes. And then, it's like about the kid, the vengeful kids, trying to keep the murderer alive as well in the books. And I don't know, I just find it really, really interesting. In the flesh, this one is bad. This is the one with Springtrap and Prick. And if you were not there when I talked about that, lucky you. It's about this guy called Matt, who is a really, really big douchebag. He's like, he has an ex-wife, and the wife was like, oh, I think I kind of want to, start a family, settle down, have children and such. And Matt is like, no, if you have children, then you'll ruin your beautiful figure and you'll be fat and ugly. And like, he's just so comically bad. He's such a comically bad person. It feels like the books are trying to make you root for his demise, root for his end. Like, are you trying to make me hope this guy dies? And yes, then he continues being a bad person to everyone around him. Like, I have a passage from the book. It's so funny. This is about another thing is there's another passage here that shows how beautiful of a personality he has. And then there was the matter of the harmless little friendship Matt had struck up with Brianna, a server at the restaurant where he frequently had lunch. It wasn't any serious, and it certainly wasn't any of Hannah's business, but she had gotten all upset when Matt had left his computer open and she saw that Brianna had sent him a picture of herself in a bikini. He had no idea why Hannah had been so unreasonable. Friends did that kind of thing all the time. And then later, when Matt and Hannah breaks up, he starts dating Brianna from some weird reason. But they're just friends, alright. And then he has a roommate who like arranges a double date for them to go on. And Matt is like, yes, Matt couldn't figure out why she didn't sound more enthusiastic. She was lucky to be going on this date. A guy like him would usually be way out of her league. And speaking of being out of one's league, how did a sloppy guy like Jason get a shot with a gorgeous girl like Megan? And he also like tries to steal his roommate's date from him. It's pretty funny. So I know you've got this thing going with Jason now because, well, opposites attract, I guess, Matt said, smiling at her. The candlelight shined on her golden hair. She really was lovely. But I just want to say that I find you devastatingly attractive, and I'd like to give you my number, just in case you'd like it for, future references. Megan's blue eyes flashed. I thought you and Jason were best friends. Matt was surprised to hear the anger in her voice. Well, we are, but you know what they say, all's fair in love and war. Just because they say it doesn't mean it's true, Megan said. All evening you've talked about nothing but yourself and how great you supposedly are. Maybe Jason isn't as well dressed as you and doesn't have as impressive a job as you, but he's great because he's a nice, caring guy. Matt wasn't going to sit there and take this abuse from yet another delusional woman. Well, I hope you enjoy your life of poverty with your nice, caring guy, he said, getting up from the table. It's just... he's such a comically bad guy. Like, I cannot take the story seriously in any sense. And then there's this really weird point of view cut thing where there are like 3 to 4 pages dedicated to this random hacker guy who managed to like hack into Fazbear Frights' newest game and steal the copy, and then we get told that he lives with his mom, and his mom is like, honey, you have to come down for dinner, you can't hack Fazbear Entertainment right now. And then we never get to see him again, he doesn't matter. But yes, it's kind of a mess, the whole story. But it's also, kind of like so bad that it's good in some sort of way, if that makes sense. Anyway. So the next story is Blackbird. And I don't know, I found it kind of meh. It wasn't really my cup of tea, I guess you could say. And it's about the 2 kids who have... just a moment, let me find my document so I can remember their names. I'm not good at that. There are a lot of people and a lot of names. Yes, Blackbird. It's about the 2 kids. One's name is Noel and the other one's name is Sam. And they're like taking some film classes. They're college kids, which is funny because throughout the entire beginning of the book, I thought they were like, I don't know, 8th graders or something. And then all of a sudden they start mentioning fraternities and driving and such. And it's like, whoa, they're college kids. It's college kids who are acting like this. But yes, I don't know if that says anything about the writing. But yes, it's about those 2 people who are like trying to make a horror movie because they need to do that for their film class project something. And then Noel is like, oh, we need to include a lot of violence and gore and body horror, and it's gonna be really gross and all that. And Sam is like, no, we're just gonna make it creepy, because if it's truly creepy, then that's a lot more scary compared to all that stuff you say. And I agree with that, and I kind of wish that the Fazbear Frights writers would have listened to that more, because especially during the latter books, it gets a lot. Just the body horror, go amok. But yes, they kind of, think back to Freddy Fazbear Pizzeria for some weird reason. And then he's like, oh, you remember these creepy animatronics? Let's make our own animatronics. It's gonna be a Blackbird, and it's gonna make you confess your darkest secrets and then turn them against you and use them to torture you. And then Noel is like, okay, well then, what is your darkest secret? And Sam is like, I don't have no, I'm a perfectly good guy, I don't have any dark secrets. And then Noel is like, okay, my secret is that I really regret this, but I used to be a bully. I bullied this girl, and of course it's not something I'm proud of, but you have to admit I did this and this and this to it, and it was pretty funny. And Sam is like, hey, I was bullied as a kid, that's not funny, that stuff can really mess you up. Then the next day, Sam is like, walking towards class with the costume of the Blackbird and everything. And he never shows up. But like at the train tracks, they find a lot of feathers and blood and such, and they speculate that it might be because Sam was hit by a train, but they don't find his body anywhere. And then Noel starts getting haunted by this Blackbird that he made up, and it's like every time he's alone, he can hear it or like see it out of his eye, see it in the corner of his eye. And that kind of freaks him out, and he sort of like comes to the conclusion, okay, the thing I need to do now is, the reason why it's haunting me is because of my darkest secret and the bullying I did. I need to make up for that. I need to find the girl I bullied, and then, apologize. So he like goes on this long journey to try and find her again. And then eventually he finds her, and he's like, hey. And she's like, hey, who are you? Why are you here? And then he cannot really talk to her because she used to be this fat, ugly girl. But now she's very fit and pretty, and she seems like a completely different person, and he doesn't really know what to say. And then he like sort of makes an awkward apology. And the girl is like, it's alright, I guess. You don't have to apologize. I mean, the fact that you called me fat and ugly kind of motivated me to start dancing more, and now I've gotten fitter and I'm healthier, and I'm a good dancer. I'm following my dreams of becoming a better dancer. And then the next day, Sam shows up. It turned out he was alive all this time. And then he admits to Noel that actually he had a dark secret all along. And that secret was that one time when he was bullied as young, he sort of like took revenge on his bully by bullying them back. And yes. And I suppose the moral of this story is bullying is bad. But it's also not bad because it may just motivate the person you're bullying to become a better person and to improve themselves and improve their skills and make them follow their life's dreams. Or something, I don't know. That's what I got from it. Okay, so the next one, The Real Jack. I also really like this one. This one, for a Fazbear Fright story, it has absolutely zero Fazbear and zero fight. It's about this kid named Jake who has cancer, and like he has this nanny watching over him, and then the nanny, and he has his father who is serving at the military and like doing military stuff, and his nanny is like growing closer and closer with both the dad and this kid, even though the kid is not getting any healthier. Like his chances of survival are getting slimmer and slimmer for each day that passes. And then, I don't know, you just hear about her life and what happens, and then near the end, the kid's dad gets shot during his military duties. And she's like, I don't know how to tell him this, and I can't continue anymore. I cannot do this. I cannot help him. I need to get him he needs to like go to the hospital and, be put there. And then the next day, an ambulance shows up to take the kid to the hospital. Although the kid is already dead at that point, and the nanny realizes this as she walks into his room. And, she can just sort of feel that he's not there anymore. And I don't know, it's really sad. It kind of makes sense if you're reading the epilogues, because the epilogue is about two ghost kids who are haunting like this weird robot thingy. One of the ghost kids is the boy from the man in room 1280. And the other ghost kid is like this kid who died of cancer. So that's the reason why it's there, but yeah. Then we have Hide and Seek. I do not like this story. This is a story about a kid who works at an arcade, and then he has this dumb older brother who's always bullying him and who has better high scores at every single arcade game than he does. And then he wants, to like beat him at least one of the games. And then while the younger brother is working at the arcade, a new game shows up, and he's like, my brother doesn't know this exists. He has never had the chance to play it. I'll just play it and get the high score, and that way I'm better than him at that game. So he decides to do that. But the game, it's like a really weird game, like where you're walking around in different locations. Like there's a police station and a bakery, I think, or something. And you have to look for this shadow bunny thing. I don't know if a shadow bunny is in an arcade game. But you have to try and find him. And the kid cannot in any of his run manage to actually find him because it's completely luck-based, depending on where you go to look and whether you find him or not. Whether it's the right location. So he decides to cheat at the game. And I really don't understand how this game works, because somehow he's able to, in woodworking class, make some wooden blocks that he can use to block certain areas of the game. And that way the Shadow Bunny cannot hide in these areas. And it somehow works. I don't know how. And it's also this physical game. I thought it was just an arcade game where you walk around and, you have a joystick and you can move into the bakery, into the police station and so on. But there are these physical assets, like bushes and stuff, where you have to look behind, and he gets really angry and tears them all up and, breaks them all. So that the bunny cannot hide anywhere. And then the bunny instead tries and then instead he ends up getting haunted by Shadow Bunny. His shadow starts resembling Shadow Bunny. And it's kind of freaking him out because, he doesn't really know what to do now that his shadow is Shadow Bunny, and he kind of wants his real shadow back. And he's scared, and he feels like the Shadow Bunny is sucking out all his energy, his life force. And so he spent some days talking with a person at school also about what he should do. And he's talks to his brother about it, haha, you cannot go play the game, I'm still playing it. His Shadow Bunny is hiding in my shadow. And the brother is like, dude, you look absolutely terrible. I'm sorry if you feel this bad about it, or if you're this dead on beating me. I won't ever touch those games again. Please just get some help. But the kid then realizes at the end what he needs to do in order to get rid of Shadow Bunny it's because that he's still in the middle of playing around, and then he needs to have all his time run out and lose the game in order to get rid of Shadow Bunny. And then he's about to do this, but then he's like, nah, I won't lose to you. And then he kills himself with some wooden spear pot that's part of the attraction. Because that way he wins the game. And gaming is everything. Beer Man. Who's Beer Man? I don't get it. You didn't win. Well, he did win, but he also liked darts, so it wasn't really a win. Anyway. Who's Beer Man? I said we weren't talking of Beer Man. Okay. Anyway, I'm really sorry. We got through half of the books. I didn't realize it was gonna take this long. I'm sorry. But I don't actually have more time right now. I'm gonna have to say goodbye. But I promise we'll get to the rest another day, because I spent a lot of time preparing myself for this. So you better look forward to that. Anyway, I hope you enjoyed and have fun. So yes, you had fun. That's good. That's good. I'm glad to hear that. Sorry, I have to end the stream now. But yes, thank you all for coming by, and I'll see you all again another time.